Hello, this is Steve with this week's B2-C1 Cambridge English class, and we're doing some writing, something that students can always improve. The focus of today's class is exactly that, elevating it. Maybe it's good, maybe you're passing, you're getting a 60%, but you want to take it to 70, 80%. You want to really boost that score because, as you know, you need to get 60% overall. So everything you improve in one part affects everything. So let's get into this with some typical activities like I always do. We're going to focus on one example today, a very common B2 and C1 topic. It's a bit popular, it's a bit trendy, it's good for the environment. Encouraging people to use public transport. Of course, personally, I only use public transport as well as my car. But hey, my car's a plug-in hybrid, so don't look at me like that. It's a really typical topic, isn't it? It's an adult topic, a modern topic, something that you are expected to be able to write about. So if it's B2, they're going to give you two things to talk about and make you have your own idea. And if it's C1, they're going to give you three things and say, write about two of them and say which is most important. Just for the sake of this video, I'm giving you all three things. Obviously, I've just come up with this myself, completely original question based on many other questions, but a nice one to think about. So let's get into some model answers. I'm the teacher, I need to tell you how to do this. Well, let's talk about new transport lines. Let's do this in order. Maybe a paragraph for this first point might be something like, new lines are good for people who live close to the train or bus stops on the line. Okay. It would mean that more people could go to work on public transport, probably to the city, as a lot of people drive now. Additionally, it would also let more people go out for fun to more places. Okay, great. So this paragraph you should understand, very clearly say how new transport lines would encourage people to use public transport. And it does that. It's fine. It's okay. But, well, first let's say why it's fine. Why is it good? Because this is fine. This would definitely pass a B2 exam if it was all like this. Well, I introduce my point. So, I'm clearly communicating it. The communication is good. It's all formal. It doesn't say, I think new lines or what do you think about new lines? No, new lines are good. It's fairly linked. It would mean is referring to the new lines as a lot of people because additionally I'm using some linking words and it makes sense, so good. And I've got some nice vocab in there as well, haven't I? A phrasal verb like to go out, a collocation like doing something for fun using the correct preposition. So it's a pretty good answer. But I think we can do better. So here's how I want to elevate this basic writing using the same ideas, but, and this is the key message of this video, developing the ideas a bit, explaining, justifying, going a step further with your thinking to show that you've got the language to be able to communicate more complex ideas, more nuanced, more difficult ideas. So how can we improve this? Using basically the same idea, right? That new lines are helping people travel. I think something slightly better might go like, constructing new lines has the potential to regenerate entire neighborhoods. By linking the center to the outskirts, people can live in towns outside the city and comfortably and easily commute. What's more, residents can take advantage of public transport for leisure activities such as eating out or catching a film. So I hope you appreciate these are basically the same ideas, but just elevated and improved a bit because I wrote down my first idea and then I thought, well, what does that mean? How can I improve that a bit? And I've done it like this, so let's do the same thing. What makes this a better answer, in my humble opinion, as a person who marks a lot of B2 and C1 writing? Well, again, we introduce the idea, but this time I'm doing it with a gerund, so it's a nice little grammatical touch. Constructing new lines has the potential. It's nice. And here's my main point. I'm not just saying it's good because people like it. It's good because it's good. I'm adding this idea of regenerating the neighborhood. So just by slightly changing the word, I'm giving you, almost like making you imagine, I'm sure many people have seen this in their own cities, a neighborhood that used to be more poor and run down and has improved because it's more connected to the city, because it's become more popular. So all of those ideas I can get into my essay just with careful word choice. Same idea here. I don't just say it's good because you can commute. I say you can comfortably and easily commute. So again, I'm giving you this image of a nice modern train, you going to work, sitting down comfortably, enjoying your trip to work, your commute. So again, the adverbs make it a more developed answer because I'm like painting a more detailed picture of the argument that I'm building. So use adverbs like that. And of course, similar point, specific examples are making this more impressive. So I don't just say it's good because you can go out, such as eating out or catching a film. This answer still has all the other good things I mentioned before, doesn't it? It has your linking words, what's more, it has some nice vocab, commute, outskirts, catch a film. So it's still got all that, but what I really want you to work on, I say most of my students in my classes, is they give you the time in the exam to plan and to think and to develop ideas like this and to be reaching the 5 out of 5 on the content and the communication. I think it takes some time to think, okay, what's the best way to answer this question, and plan and think and then put those ideas into practice. Okay, so there we go. That's one example of a paragraph. If you had 2 paragraphs like this, and then your conclusion or your third point in B2, you'd be doing very, very well. Let's look at one more example. Let's talk about discount prices. So we'll do the same thing. My ideas for this, a fine answer. If there are discount prices, people use public transport more. Firstly, everybody likes to save money because you can spend it on other things. Secondly, discount prices would let poor people use public transport more and maybe have more opportunities in life. Okay, I think we understand. Again, this is fine. This is good. Why is it fine? I've introduced my point using this conditional. It's linked together, firstly and secondly, and they make sense. My first point is clear. My second point is clear. And it's got some nice little expressions and so on there. Like to save, as in like with the infinitive, to talk about a habit. Spend money on, correct preposition. All these little details that the examiner notices that you can express correctly. And the answer's fine. I think the idea makes sense. It's true, we want to save money, and it's true that if poor people can use public transport more, they can have more opportunities. What does that mean? Well, this is how we're going to improve it, isn't it? How can we make it better? Of course, at this point in the video, you can pause and try and rewrite this yourself like we did in the first one. Can you make it better? Keeping the ideas the same, that basically people like discounts, that discounts can help poorer people. Those are my 2 paragraphs pretty much, weren't they? Can you rewrite this to make it more impressive, to make it a 5 out of 5 for content and communication and language and organization, to be honest, because this is a bit basic. This wouldn't get a 5 out of 5. It's fine, but it's not a 5 out of 5 for organization. Something a bit better might go like, if prices were reduced, users would appreciate the greater sense of value. This is especially relevant in times of economic difficulty and inflation. Most notably, discounts would promote social mobility, as the less well-off would have easier access to the city and the increased work or study opportunities. So again, why is this better? Because I think it is better. Well, let's think about why. Again, we are introducing the idea, but this time with a second conditional. So again, we're just showing a greater range of grammar here. If prices were reduced, they would appreciate it. My more developed point, people don't want to spend money. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Well, let's go with a very typical and honestly a little bit thoughtless thing of saying, in this economy, nowadays, people don't have money. People have been saying that since the beginning of time. It's a bit of a cliche, a typical idea that doesn't really have much thought behind it. But if you can express these cliches in English, you're doing okay in the exam. That's a big point of communicating, isn't it? Saying the typical things that everyone says in another language. So developing the point, not just saying people like saving money, but people like saving money, especially in these times. Again, adding a bit of nuance, not just saying firstly, secondly, but I think my second point is more important. So I will introduce it by saying most notably, or more notably, the discounts could also have this impact, which I think is more important. And then again, I've used a specific example. I'm following the same pattern, you might notice, because it's a nice pattern. It works. Instead of just saying opportunities, work and study opportunities, you make it a bit clearer. Again, you paint a picture of this poor person who lost their parents and never had an opportunity in life, but because the subway tickets were 50% off, they managed to travel to the city and study at university and become the king of the land, and so on. I'm exaggerating, but that's the point. That's why we use specific details, because they do make a better constructed narrative. They make it more convincing, they make it more detailed, they make a better answer. So to recap, developing your point by thinking about the consequences, the counterexample and all these things, adding nuance, mostly through using adverbs where necessary, and being specific with examples and details will 99% of cases make your writing better. For the third point, please do it yourself. I haven't written one for this one because we have the rule of 3, but I think it's important for students to try it themselves as well. How would car-free zones encourage people to use public transport? Come up with 2 or 3 key ideas, then try to use the example, use the techniques we've looked at of developing them, of adding nuance, giving examples to make one really nice 70, 80 word paragraph for C1, maybe slightly less for B2. Go away and do it, then put it in an envelope and send it to yourself 1 week in the future. No, send it to me if you want, my contact details are there. Send it to your English teacher, send it to a friend, or just do it for the activity in itself. I was thinking maybe, obviously once you've done this, you then have your own idea and a conclusion. For C1 it's a bit different, but for this paragraph, I was thinking maybe something like, you're going to introduce the point. Obviously if you force people to use public transport, because there's no cars, then you're encouraging them. And the point here is about pollution, isn't it? So I'd mention something along those lines. If you've gone for something like that, you've gone for the typical cliched answer, well done. Then develop it like we said. Okay, so that's the point of our writing, really. Go away, find a B2-C1 question, put that into practice, do some writing. The best practice is doing it. Like always with these classes, though, I want to make the most of every resource I'm making. And I wrote these great paragraphs. I actually wrote them with no artificial intelligence. The only intelligence was real intelligence. I wrote them and I thought, I've used a lot of nice vocabulary here. Vocabulary that students should know for use of English Part 3 at B2 and C1. So I made a use of English Part 3 activity. Pause the video. Change the word that is given on line 1 so it fits the gap in line 1 and line 2 and line 2. And 3 and 4, these are in order. In gap 3, comfort. In gap 4, easy. I'm going to tell you the answers now because you have paused the video and you have done it to improve your use of English Part 3. Number 1, if we remember, was regenerate. They don't generate neighbourhoods, I don't think. I think they regenerate them because neighbourhoods already exist. And I've just told you, neighbourhoods, with or without you, as you can hear from my received pronunciation accent, which I work very hard on to give correct classes. I am British, I use a you. It's fine without the you in any exam you do. Number 3, these are adverbs, because that was the whole point of what I was trying to say, wasn't it? That you can add nuance with adverbs. How are you commuting comfortably and easily? And number 5, who is using public transport? Residents with an S. And number 6, what are they doing? Leisure activities. Nice little collocation that we use. Leisure activities, eating out, catching a film. Personally, I prefer going to the theatre, obviously, but some people just like to stuff their face and watch dumb Hollywood blockbusters. So that's your use of English Part 3. Now we're doing use of English Part 2. I've done them out of order because that was the way it best fit the words I had on offer. Pause the video, complete the blanks using a common grammatical word. There should only be one option. Maybe there's 2 options in some cases. Of course, the answers are number 1, if prices were reduced, because this is a second conditional, so you have to know past with would. Number 2, you have a sense of value, the same as you have a sense of smell or a sense of touch, and so on. Number 3, this is a nice one. I think the only possible answer is this. If you say which, it doesn't work because we can't start a new sentence with which. That would be a comma. If you say it, it sounds a bit weird because you are referring back to the idea immediately before. And the same reason for that is too distant. You just said it, so it's better to say this is relevant. Number 4, we are starting with an adverb and it's very notable. So it's most or more notably because we're comparing it to what came before. They would promote social mobility. The less well-off would have easier access. Ooh, okay, so we need to understand the context of the sentence and why would this promote social mobility? Because, or as, or since, some word for the consequence. And number 6, you have access to the city. Okay, right. Use of English part 4. Now I've made some use of English part 4 because we didn't do this in the last video and it's important to keep practicing it. They are all related to public transport. So they're all, phrases you could use, grammar that if you use in your writing, it'd be very impressive. So it's all connected to what we're doing. Pause the video, complete the blanks, use the word, do not change the word, 5 words maximum. Here come the answers. Number 1, we're going to say, there has been no increase. Or we could also say something else, which is going to come up in a minute because I didn't put it there, but wait. Number 2, told me to sit, right? Take a seat is sit down, told me to sit down. Number 3, we thought driving would be better. We decided is with the infinitive, decided to drive, and instead of is with ing. So in one sentence, we have an infinitive and an ing. That's a nice one. And the last one, it's a passive question, isn't it? They didn't build, very few were built. Were because it's plural, and built is the past participle. And to go back to number 1, you could also say there has not been an increase, or there has not been any increase in bus fares. Okay, so that's the end of our use of English. Last thing to do in this class is a quick bit of speaking, because this is a perfect part 3 for the speaking. How can we improve your town? Your town is a hellscape where nobody wants to live. I don't know what you're doing there. Get out as soon as you can. We need to improve it. Here are some ideas for how to improve your town. Talk together about how these ideas could improve your town. Remember, you are talking about how they could improve your town. You are not saying, we have to do this one. Shut up and stop talking because we're doing this one. No, you're talking, well, maybe this one, and you're having a conversation. So you're saying things like, well, I think new transport links would be really important because everybody needs to travel for work or studying or even leisure activities. And if it's easy and cheap, people are more likely to live there. It's one of the top factors in what attracts people to a city. Do you see what I mean? Yes, absolutely. I mean, to take the example of my own town, I chose the house where I live because it's close to the metro. So absolutely. I would also think that the green areas, greenery, is really important. So more parks would be very beneficial for our town. What would you say? And so on and so on and so on, with a nice conversation, making a clear point about each of these, like I've spoken about in my previous speaking part 3 videos. So there you go, you can do that in your class as well if you want. Okay, that's plenty of content for today. Do some writing, do some use of English, do some speaking, have fun, see you next time.